Hello everyone. Today's poem is 塞下曲六首其一 by Li Bai. So this is one of a very famous frontier and fortress poetry by Li Bai. And we also can see the life goal, the ambition Li Bai have through this poem. Actually, he expressed his pursued his goals in so many poetries, and it's quite clear he's a very proud person, extremely proud person, but he never proud of his talent on poem writing, literacy whatsoever. He just only proud of his sword craft, the skills on the sword craft. And someone has a calculation statistics on his poems by Li Bai, all the poems by Li Bai, that 10% of his poems has the word or the borrowed word of sword. And he also expressed his examples in the previous histories was the two famous generals, not some scholars. One is Jiang Shang in the Zhou dynasty. The other is the famous Zhuge Liang in the Three Kingdoms time. So basically, his pursuit, his life goals is quite clear to everybody through his poetries, and he never covered it up. I already had two videos with the same title, 塞下曲, under the fortress, the song under the fortress, with the English name at the frontier. So I labeled them as 1, 2, 3. At the frontier 1, at the frontier 2, at the frontier 3. So these three poems belongs to the different period of the Tang dynasty, belong to the different poets. This one titled as At the Frontier 3 actually came first in the history, then the At the Frontier 2, and then At the Frontier 1, which was written in the Late Tang period. This one, At the Frontier 3 by Li Bai, actually was written in the most prosperous Tang time, and what's more, it was written in the best time of Li Bai himself. In the age of 43. Before that, Li Bai tried all the ways to approach the emperor to get into the central government, where he think he can fulfill his dream, lifelong dreams. Anyhow, he failed. So actually, he already decided to be a hermit, and he lived a country life in the East China, Shandong province. I had a video which described the situation of that time. The name is 南陵别儿童入京. And then suddenly, at the age of 42, he was summoned by the emperor to serve very closely in the Chang'an city to the emperor. So you can feel the feelings. And also Li Bai think that's the time for himself to fulfill his lifelong time, to be a general with his sword to conquer the new land. And this is the second year he stayed with the emperor in the capital city, Chang'an. This poem was written in the year 743, 12 years ahead before the Civil War broke. The Tang Empire was reaching its best time, the peak hours. It could be the peak hours through the Chinese history. And as well, the poet Li Bai himself was in his best time. So you can feel the atmosphere, the feelings through this poem. And also when you compare this one to the other same title poems at the Frontier 1, at the Frontier 2, you can try to figure out and compare the differences between the poets, the differences reflected the social status, the society, the people, or the country. Now let's look at this poem. 塞下曲，李白。五月天山雪，无花只有寒。笛中闻折柳，春色未曾看。晓战随金鼓，宵眠抱玉鞍。愿将腰下剑，直为斩楼兰。A very, very positive, high-spirited poem. When reading it, you can feel that. So you can imagine in a time of peak hours, in the most prosperous Tang period, the best time of the Tang Empire, and Li Bai with extremely high spirits. He was very, very close to the emperor, and he was very, very close to his lifelong goal, to be a general, to take the new land, to defeat the enemy of the Tang Empire. So that's his lifelong pursuit. It's so close now. 五月天山雪. In the month of May, the Tianshan mountain was still covered with snow. The snow mountains. But be careful, the May actually is not May in today. It's in the lunar calendar. So normally it's roughly June to July's time frame. It's summer's time. So that tells us the landscape, the mountains, is quite unique there. It's high mountains. It covers with the snow even in the summertime. 无花只有寒. There's no flowers but cold. So that's something more detailed. Actually, I have no idea if Li Bai has been to these places in his lifetime. But these places, the Tianshan mountain, the northwest frontiers, is quite a hot topic among the Tang people. So he can just imagine all these things, even he never went there. So I have no idea, but I don't think he went there. 笛中闻折柳. Though the Chinese flute, from the music of the flute, I smell the taste of, or the feelings of broken the willow branches. So there's two things. The flute normally is 羌笛, so that's the very typical music in the frontier armies. It served for the combat battles at the signal, but as normal times, the people will play this flute and express his feelings, or mostly the thinking of his families, his hometowns. So in the Tang poetry, the flute, or 羌笛, the Qiang flute, always resembles the feeling of homesick. And the second is the same thing, 折柳. 折柳happens in the Chang'an city or in Xi'an city, in the Tang Dynasty. So when the troops started their journey from the capital area, when the people departed from each other, from their families, or friends departed between their friends, they like to broke the branch of the willows, which has the same meaning of I want you to stay, because 柳 sounds the same sound as 留. 留 means stay. So if you are my friend, I'm seeing you off, I will take the branch of willows and broke it. So I want you to stay. So this sentence actually all reflect the homesick, the very heavy, very profound homesick of the soldiers, of the troops. 春色未曾看. So here is something more details. Actually, it's the echo to the first pair of sentences. It's already summer's time, but we still don't feel the spring, which means the grass didn't grow up, the trees didn't get turned into green. 春色未曾看. So I never saw the color of the spring, even in the June and July's time in the 天山 mountain. 晓战随金鼓. I followed the beats of the golden drum and march forward in the battle in the morning. 晓战, the battle in the morning. So in the ancient time, they always battle in the daytime. So the battle starts in the morning and ends when the sun goes down. And the drum, the golden drum, normally is also used as the signal to direct the battles. So the drum means march forward to combat. 宵眠抱玉鞍. In the night when I sleep, I just embrace my jade saddle. So this has implicated that they don't sleep in the camp. They stay somewhere in the wild. And we know the environment is a very, very poor and very difficult environment. It's still with snow, it's so cold, and it's just like in the winters, so they just sleep in the wild. That tells you something of the difficulties or the hard life of the soldiers. And also this is also reflected, the battle is quite difficult. Just 1 day's battle or 2 days battle didn't end that wars. So when the sun goes up, they march forward to battle with the enemies. And when sun goes down, they just sleep in the wild, in the field. And the next day, they had to combat with the enemy as well, or as usual. So days to days life is a very hard life. 愿将腰下剑，只为斩楼兰. So I wish my sword under my waist. It's only for the purpose to behead the king of Loulan. The first 3 pair of sentences, express the hardship, the life, the battles in the frontier areas in the Tianshan mountains. The soldiers, not to say the battles, the life is so difficult. But even with such, the last pair of sentences express the willing of Li Bai himself. 职位 is a borrowed words, equals 职位, only for. So the sword of mine was only for the purpose to behead the king of Loulan. So 斩楼兰 becomes a very, very popular word in Tang poetry. 斩楼兰 is a history story in the Han dynasty. An envoy of the Han dynasty, he went 1,000 miles to the northwest to the state of Loulan, and just with few of his people, his colleagues, he killed the king of Loulan and take over the state, which became a subsidiary state for the Han Empire. So the courage, the spirits actually is always praised by the Tang people. We also had another poem by Wang Changling, 从军行. So he used the word 破楼兰, I will break the castle of Loulan. And 斩楼兰 starts the term 斩楼兰 to behead the Loulan. It's from the surface of mean. Actually, it means behead the king of Loulan. This term starts from Li Bai, and it becomes a very popular word until today, which express the courage, the bold activities. The place or the city actually became a mystery after Han Dynasty until 100 years ago. An archaeologist or explorer, Seven Hedin, he discovered the ancient place of Loulan, and it basically is just a desert today. Through the history, the cities or the states in this area basically are all oases. When the river or lakes beside the city vanished, the city gone as well. So when we review this poem, basically the writings and the meanings is quite simple, but some of the quotations to the history stories. But this quotations quite familiar to Chinese. So basically there's no difficulties for today's Chinese when we're reading this poem. Just quite straightforward. The poem started with 3 pair of sentences with very negative feelings or negative things. The poor life, the poor environment, but to the 4th pair of sentences, which was the willing of Li Bai himself, it's very solid, extremely positive. My goal is the Loulan city, 1,000 miles away, and I would use my sword to conquer that place. So with the contrast between the negative environment situations to the strong wishes, it makes the wishes more solid, more concrete, and much more positive. Basically, it's a very, very typical writing techniques or very popular writing techniques in the Tang poetry. And in my opinion, Li Bai even deliberately don't mention the casualties, the deaths in the battlefield. And this is totally different from the later generations. So they always thought about the deaths, the sadness of the soldiers, of the families. So this is a basic difference between the Prosperous Tang period and the Late Tang period. And that's the big atmosphere of the empire, of the society as well. One more thing about Loulan. Actually, there was no Loulan city in the Tang dynasty, but the Tang poets are so fond of using the term Loulan. So as two reasons. The Tang people always like to compare them to the Han dynasty. So this story of Loulan happens in the Han dynasty. That's the reason one. The second reason is the sound and also the terms is such beautiful, and also it implies some very subtle feelings for Chinese. Lou, so you can see so many poems about climbing up the high-rise buildings. Lan, the color. So the Tang poem, they always pay extremely attentions to describe the colors in their poetry. And this place name, he itself got this characteristic by itself, so why not use this one? And also the sound, Lou Lan, Zhan Lou Lan, just feel it. Also here is very pleasant, so that could be the reasons they choose to use this quotation to the Han dynasty, also to choose to use this place. Just imagine there's so many place names in the frontier areas, but we actually, when they writing the poems, there's not much appeared. So that's the concern, to make the poems looks more beautiful and sounds more pleasant. Okay, that's for today. Bye bye.